The world is invaded by large monsters called kaijus. No one knows who sent them. All they know is that they come through a dimensional rift called the Breach. Humanity comes together to develop the Jaeger program, large robots controlled by two people. The pilots of the Jaeger are linked neurally by drifting, sharing each other's memories, allowing them to become one and control the robot. Raleigh is one of these pilots, and his brother is his co-pilot. A kaiju is spotted, and Raleigh and his brother suit up for combat. At the base, Tendo, the lead technician, and Marshal Pentecost, the chief officer of the Jaeger program, command and lead Raleigh and his brother to the kaiju. They reach the location of the kaiju and save a fishing boat before the kaiju springs out of the water and fights them. They quickly take it down, but after turning their backs to it, the kaiju resurrects and rips off one of the Jaeger's arms. Before they can assess their damages, the kaiju breaks through the hull and eats Raleigh's brother. Filled with rage, Raleigh controls the Jaeger alone, something unheard of because of the strain it has on a singular host. He uses his other arm's plasma cannon to finally kill the kaiju, avenging his brother. He controls the broken-down Jaeger back to the coast of Alaska before finally passing out. 5 years later, kaijus keep ravaging the world. Pentecost is in a meeting with the world's leaders, and they shut down the Jaeger program, opting to build an impenetrable wall instead on the coastlines. Raleigh has been working on the construction of the wall after his brother's death. At the end of the day, the crew watches a news report of another kaiju attack running through the wall they worked hard to build, causing the crew to give up. Soon after the news report, Pentecost arrives in a helicopter to see Raleigh. He tries to recruit him back to the Jaeger program. Raleigh declines at first, but Pentecost tells him the world will end soon and tells him it'd be better to die fighting in a Jaeger than working on a failed wall.
Raleigh and Pentecost head to headquarters located in Hong Kong. Mori, an officer of the Jaeger pilot program, meets them at the landing bay. She is in charge of picking out a candidate who would be able to drift with him and be his new co-pilot. They enter the elevator and meet Newt and Herman, two doctors who despise each other's work. Pentecost introduces Raleigh to Herc and Chuck, other Jaeger pilots. Herc greets him, but Chuck walks away. Pentecost gives him a brief description of the plan to take down the kaijus for good. He lets Raleigh know that they will take a nuclear bomb to the breach in Herc's Jaeger, and Raleigh is the escort along with two other Jaegers. Newt and Herman are working in their lab. Newt is a biologist researching the kaiju's organs, and Herman is a mathematician calculating the kaiju's movements and time of attacks. Pentecost and Herc meet them, and Herman informs them that the kaiju attacks will be more frequent and impossible to defend after the next attack unless they go ahead with the bomb drop as soon as possible. Newt tells them his research concludes that the kaijus have a plan, but he can't figure it out unless he gets a new kaiju's brain and drifts with it. Pentecost ignores Newt and leaves. Mori shows Raleigh his old Jaeger, Gypsy, and reconnects with Tendo. Mori takes Raleigh to his room and tells him that he's reckless and unpredictable, which made it hard for her to find someone compatible to drift with. He tells her that in the field, one must be ready for the unpredictable. The next day, Raleigh gets lunch with Herc and Chuck. Chuck finally introduces himself and calls Raleigh a failure before leaving. After lunch, the candidates try out to be Raleigh's co-pilot by evaluating their combat skills. Each of them fail, and Raleigh suggests Mori try. Pentecost rejects it first, but allows her after Raleigh's teasing. After an even match, Mori takes him down, and he requests her to be his co-pilot. Pentecost refuses, disappointing him and Mori. Raleigh talks to her after the trial and asks why she won't be his co-pilot. She tells him she wants to, but Pentecost will not allow her to be in danger.
Pentecost reflects on his decision to ban Mori from becoming a pilot. He realizes that he doesn't have any other options and allows her to co-pilot Gypsy with Raleigh. Newt is frustrated and decides to go on with his plan. He builds a drift machine out of scraps and drifts with an old brain he has in the lab. When he drifts, he finds out that the kaijus are created and that the kaijus they've been defeating are the grunts, and something far worse is coming. Herman finds him and informs Pentecost. He listens to Newt and tells him to drift again to find more details, but Newt tells him he needs a different brain. Pentecost gives him directions to a man named Hannibal, a black market dealer who sells kaiju organs. Raleigh and Mori drift with each other for the first time, but Mori gets trapped in a memory. Raleigh tries to calm her down, but she loses control and powers up the arm cannon. Pentecost runs back in, and Tendo does what he can to shut them down, but fails. Mori gets a hold of her emotions and calms down, disabling the arm cannon before it goes off. Newt looks for Hannibal. He follows some clues to a medicine shop and asks the cashier where Hannibal is. He opens a secret door, and Newt gets excited seeing all the kaiju organs on display. Hannibal meets Newt, and Newt tells him that Pentecost sent him there for a brain. Chuck complains about Raleigh and Maury's failure. As he leaves, he insults Raleigh and Maury, and Raleigh starts a fight. Chuck retaliates, but Raleigh counters him in every way, holding him down when Herc and Pentecost break them up. He tells them that due to Maury's failure to drift, she's being removed and another candidate will be selected. Raleigh disapproves and knows why. While drifting with Maury, he found out that when Maury was a child, he saved her and adopted her. Raleigh tries to change his mind, but Pentecost refuses and leaves. A kaiju alert is triggered, but this time there are two of them. Pentecost dispatches the Jaegers to take them down. They get deployed off the coast of Hong Kong, and two of the Jaegers make contact with a kaiju. They fight it off, but get overwhelmed. It takes down one of the Jaegers and sprays acid on the other, causing massive damage. Before Herc and Chuck can provide backup, the second kaiju bursts through the water and rips it apart. Herc and Chuck throws one of the kaijus down, but the other one detonates an EMP, shutting down all electrical circuits in the area, even the command center. Raleigh knows that Gypsy runs on nuclear power. He tells Pentecost that they're the only hope Herc and Chuck have got. In the meantime, Newt asks Hannibal for a brain, but when he figures out why, Hannibal orders an evacuation. He too drifted with a kaiju, and he knows that when you drift with a kaiju, it makes them hunt down the drifter, meaning the two kaijus that spawned are here for Newt. One of the kaiju makes it to the city and looks for Newt. Newt runs to a bunker with other civilians and hides there. Raleigh and Maury make it just in time and start beating the kaiju. They try their best to take it down, but the kaiju uses its strength to break out of everything. As the beast runs them down, they charge their plasma cannon and shoot into its side, blasting its arm off and finally taking it down. The other kaiju breaks the bunker where Newt is, but before it can take him, Gypsy shows up and diverts its attention. The kaiju throws them into the buildings and has the upper hand. It tries to spray acid on them, but Gypsy dodges it and rips out the acid gland from its mouth. The beast gets angry and pierces Gypsy's torso before spreading its wings and flying up into the atmosphere. They get high into the atmosphere before they pull out a sword and slice it up, sending them plummeting back down to Earth. They use their thrusters to slow their fall and safely land. Newt meets Hannibal at the kaiju body, and Hannibal helps him get a brain. Unfortunately, the brain is damaged, but the crew finds out it's pregnant. The offspring bursts out and collapses before it reaches Newt and Hannibal. Thinking it died, Hannibal stabs it, but it resurrects and eats him before finally dying, providing Newt with a fresh brain. Raleigh finds Pentecost in the bathroom cleaning up blood from his nose and realizes he is dying. On his last mission, the Jaeger he was controlling gave him radiation poisoning, preventing him from ever piloting another Jaeger. As he finishes cleaning up, another kaiju alert triggers and they prepare for the final mission. Raleigh and Maury suit up, but Chuck asks who his co-pilot will be since his father is hurt. At this time, Pentecost enters the landing bay in gear, telling Chuck that he will be his co-pilot. Maury realizes what this means, and Pentecost tells her how proud he is of her and delivers a moving speech to the crew of the Dace. Chuck says his goodbye to his father, and the two Jaegers head to the drop site. Herman meets Newt at the fallen kaiju offspring's body and helps him drift with it. This time, Herman drifts with him to help get more details. After the drift, they hurry to warn the Jaegers that their plan to bomb the breach will not work. They reach the underwater breach but find it unguarded and the kaiju's missing. Pentecost hesitates, and it gives Newt and Herman enough time to notify them that their plan will fail. He tells them that they have to take a kaiju with them inside the breach, otherwise the breach will act as a shield and receive no damage. A third kaiju signature is alerted, and this time it's the biggest they've ever seen. The Jaegers get distracted, and one of the kaiju attacks Gypsy. The kaiju rips off one of Gypsy's arms, but they stab it in the head with the other arm, making it retreat. Another kaiju swims towards them, and Gypsy runs its sword through its body, cutting it in half. The large kaiju runs down Pentecost and Chuck. Gypsy is too injured to move quickly, so Pentecost orders them to head towards the breach. Pentecost lures in the two remaining kaiju and detonates a nuke when they get close, causing a large explosion and clearing a path for Gypsy. Unfortunately, the large kaiju survive the blast and blocks their path. Gypsy dives, tackling the beast and stabbing it, making sure it doesn't move. They make it into the breach and reach the kaiju's dimension. Maury is unconscious, and Raleigh detonates her escape pod while he begins to detonate Gypsy's nuclear core. Because the Jaeger received too much damage, he manually starts the countdown and runs to his escape pod after. Gypsy explodes, destroying the breach once and for all. Tendo confirms the destruction of the breach, and they head out to rescue Maury. After she surfaces, she sees Raleigh's pod surface. She checks on him but finds him with no pulse, fearing the worst, but he comes back, and the crew on the base erupt into cheers.